a man with three-time NBA champion in his 11 years in the NBA, and now as the EVP and managing executive of the Wasserman Media Group. He is none other than B.J. Armstrong. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing great. Like, again, I was saying to Chris and to the folks in the first segment, as I said to you backstage, we were thinking, okay, who can talk about three-peating and shooting and Kerr and Jordan and the possibility of the Warriors either being broken up by free agency or sticking around than this guy, you, who's been on both ends of playing and agenting. So thank you for being here.
It's nice of you to think of me. I don't know if I can talk about it, but
no, I know. Well, look, I mean, you definitely have a lot of experience with you've got a lot of fingers in a lot of pots here. So let's start with the Warriors and what Kerr said about Durant, that the last time he saw somebody in a role like this was named Michael, and he had fun with saying he doesn't remember his last name. What do you think of that statement, BJ?
Well, when you think of an offensive player who has the capability of a Jordan, where you said, you know what, you're going to pick and choose when to implement them in the offense. At the time, Phil Jackson was running an offense, a triangle offense, and we just picked and choose where to put Jordan. Did you put him on the strong side, the weak side, but most importantly, where we're going to get him the ball in an operating area. Mm-hmm. When I watch Kevin Durant now, this year, unlike in years past, Kevin Durant is playing the game with the ability to score with a live dribble. He's catching the ball in an operating area like Jordan did, and there aren't many players who can do that. Kevin Durant he's showing me something I haven't really seen before. He's always open every time he catches the ball because he's 7 feet. He doesn't have to make a move. And that, to me, gives him a significant advantage as an offensive player because he doesn't really have to do anything other than catch the ball, square up, get in a good offensive position, and rise up and above and shoot. Patrick Beverley and all those guys in the last series, they did everything they could possibly do, but because of his height, he's automatically getting a good look at the basket.
Yeah, it was funny. There was a post-game press conference. I don't know if you saw it after Game 6. Did you see this?
Yes, I did.
Did you see this, Chris, when it was Beverly and Mo Williams together, and somebody asked them, like, what more could you have done to stop Durant? And they basically just said, "What do you don't think we tried everything?" And they couldn't have been more truthful. Like, he's unstoppable is basically what they said.
He really is. I mean, because of his height. I mean, really, I can't think of any player other than maybe George Gervin, who was 6'7" at the 2 position, but Kevin Durant is every bit 7 feet. He's a 7-foot player who's playing the game as a guard, and he catches the ball in an operating area. There's not much you really can do.
Well, when you say that catch a ball in an operating area, is this something that you see, again, from your time with Phil and knowing what Steve Kerr might have taken from that? Do you see the X's and O's of what Kerr's doing to get him in these operating areas?
I really do. I think the great thing that Steve has learned is how to implement very talented players into a system. And I think that is a talent as a coach. You don't see it very often. I think I saw it with Chuck Daly. I saw it with Pat Riley. I've seen it now with Greg Popovich when you implement, a Tim Duncan into the team. And now you're seeing it now with Steve Kerr, what he's doing with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a very special individual talent that is somehow, some way they've been able to implement that talent into the team without taking away from everything of what a team brings, but also a great individual player like him.
B.J. Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen Show. So how does this team get stopped? I mean, how does this team get stopped in their estimation?
That is a tough question. I think one of the keys is, first you got to figure out what you're going to do with Draymond Green. Draymond Green, to me, is a player that you have to take into the same regard if you're game planning against the Warriors, like you did with those Bulls teams with Scottie Pippen, because Draymond Green has the ability to distribute and organize an offense. And if you put two shooters in the corners for him and a player that you can play over the top, it really makes him a very effective offensive player because he's the best screener on the team. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, which is easier said than done, is you're going to have to get to their bench. Their bench, Steve Kerr has really shortened his rotations. Even though they are up 2-0 in this series, he's really shortened his rotation. So I think at some point, if you're going to beat this team, you're going to have to get to game 5, 6, and 7,
right?
Because they're playing a lot of minutes. They're starters. This is a top-heavy team right now. And I think if you can get to their bench, to get their bench to play some extended minutes, I think it increases your chance to win that game.
So let's take that one piece at a time, your answer there, BJ, because anybody that watches this team just as a fan sitting on the couch
yes,
would say, okay, who do you have to stop in order to beat this team? Draymond would be choice 4. With
Right.
Curry shooting from the logo and the pick and roll, or Durant shooting from 3-point or driving. As you pointed out, he's playing a 7-footer playing like a guard. Klay Thompson wide open, deadly. He's got a flamethrower, as we heard. And then you say Draymond. So why Draymond?
But Draymond organizes the game for the rest of the players. Okay, he's the best screener on the team. Okay, he's the best distributor, and he distributes to all of the other guys. Draymond will pass up a shot, throw an alley-oop to Andre Iguodala.
Right.
Now, to the person just watching the game, they go, "Hey, that was a nice play." But Draymond he's continuing to distribute, which makes the defensive rotations very difficult to get into. I would focus in on Draymond first and make him into a scorer.
Do the Rockets have that player?
No one's figured it out. Draymond at the center position is a very, very unique player. He's a very unique player because how many other centers can rebound the ball, push it up on the break, and distribute and make the right play? And he does this consistently night in and night out. How many other teams have the luxury to run their offense through their center and know that the ball will get to where it needs to get to at the right time? So Draymond has mastered the art, if you will, of knowing when to shoot and when to pass. And that, to me, is a key to any offense because you have players who can get the ball where it needs to get to at the right time. And obviously he has great shooters to get it to, but give Draymond the credit. He's getting it to the right people at the right time. And it reminds me of Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen's greatest asset was getting the ball to where it needed to get to at any moment during the course of a game.
And could also crush you off the dribble. He could just destroy you as well.
Absolutely. I mean, he just plays with options. Draymond plays with options. And if you're going to play against this team, you got to take away something. When I look at the game last night, the Warriors have made a definite effort to take away the alley-oop option. Clint Capella, you don't see Clint Capella flying in and just getting, alley-oop dunks. Now, at some point, the Houston Rockets are going to have to take away something. They're going to have to take away something from Draymond because Draymond right now is picking them apart. He's throwing it to Klay. He's throwing it to Steph. He's throwing it to Kevin Durant.
Is it PJ Tucker? I mean, who can do that? Who can guard Draymond in that regard?
Well, most of the time because he's playing the center position, you guard him with your center.
So
I think you guard him with speed and quickness. The game now is about speed and quickness. Draymond as a center is a definite advantage to the Warriors because he plays the game and allows them to play faster. This is the first team, really, if you look at the Rockets, the Warriors can play just as fast or faster than them. Normally, they're the fastest team in the league.
Right.
With Draymond at the center position, I would argue that the Warriors are faster than them because Draymond has the ability to push the ball on the break just as well as any guard. So this is a problem I think that no one has solved yet. And I think it's kind of caught the Rockets by surprise if you just watch the game from a technical standpoint because what they're able to do and how quickly they're doing it, they're scoring now. I think last night was one of the unique things I've seen in a while. The Rockets scored on the other end, and the Warriors came down and scored without the ball touching the floor and dunked it on the other end. That's very hard to do, especially in the playoffs. So the Warriors are committed to playing the game as fast as they can because they have the players and the personnel to do it.
BJ Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen Show. And yet, though, you say that the bench is thin in terms of the personnel to do it. Is that why you think they signed Boogie Cousins in the offseason and now that's coming home to roost, that they thought they would have him to not have to play the Hamptons 5 off the top, and just stick with them and have them all log 35, 40 minutes in a 7-game slog of a series?
Well, when you're playing year in and year out in the playoffs at the length of time, it's just going to wear on you.
Right.
And I think signing Boogie was a huge advantage for them. It was a huge asset for them because they had an able body and allowed them to play in a way that, if the game got slow,
right,
you could play slow. I think in watching them, Boogie was really going to be the player that they wanted to anchor their second unit. Because if you can run the offense through Boogie from the post.
In the same way that they run it through Draymond.
Yes, I think it allows you to kind of settle that second unit in because you need a score on your second unit. So I think that was the thought process when they signed Boogie, and they needed another body. But when you take away Boogie now, it's forcing their starters to play extended minutes. And I think at some point it probably will catch up with them, but certainly they look good in the first 2 games.
And then in terms of B.J. Armstrong again here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, now put on your agenting hat.
Okay, let's do it.
So July 1st rolls around. I said at the top of the show, these guys would be crazy to leave each other. I mean, this is as special as it gets right now. But you as somebody, and it's interesting that you talk Draymond up and people would say, hey, well, that's his agent talking right now. You no longer represent
That's
Draymond
correct.
Green. Okay. So knowing, though, the mindset of Draymond as you do, and knowing what it's like to try and keep a team together as you do from many different angles,
Right.
what do you think happens July 1st with this team?
Well, I think this team has been together long enough now to where they are a team now that people that played and have won, have success. What is the one thing that breaks all championship teams up? It's the me factor. It's me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how important am I? I think that is one thing they're all going to have to assess once the season is over with. Clearly, they have very special players. Clearly, they can play together as a group. But I think the me factor, you've been around each other for so long, your mind begins to wonder. I think at some point they will all realize, hopefully sooner rather than later, how important and how much they need each other. But I think if they are going to move, okay, I think if that does happen or that comes into play, I think many of them will begin to think about what could I do and where can I begin to expand my role. You know, I think in particular, Kevin Durant, what is the next step for Kevin Durant is we can say he's a great player. We can say he came in and he integrated his talent into that team, but was he the leader of that team? And I think if he looks at it from that standpoint, maybe that's something he wants to do. Maybe that is a challenge that he thinks that's next in his career. Who knows? But I think that is something that all of the players are going to have to figure out. What is this team going to look like moving forward in the foreseeable future?
Well, but I mean, let's be honest here. What better legacy is there than to win 4 in a row or 5 in a row or 6 in a row? What better legacy could you possibly have unless you're sitting there and actually hearing people say, well, you had nothing to do with it specifically. You weren't Jordan. You weren't like the end all, like the universe didn't revolve around you. You joined the universe. But at this point, 3 years later, he's as integral part of this team as any in Kevin Durant. So I ask you this as an agent, the stories that are out there right now that say he's decided he's going to New York or he's leaving. He needs to go to a spot to create his own legacy. And he's playing basketball right now knowing that he's leaving the Warriors. We have heard stories out there that he's even contacted a team to say he's coming, and we all assume that's the Knicks. You as an agent and somebody who knows what it's like to negotiate and go into free agency, how real is that a possibility right now?
Well, I think that it's very difficult to play knowing that you're already out. I think that's very, very hard to do because you have to be invested. As a athlete, I'll put my former athletic hat back on. Being in the game, you have to be invested into the now. And every athlete understands that, who especially plays the game at the level that he's playing at. You don't have one foot out of the door and then you're playing at the level he's playing at currently as you see Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is playing the game as high a level as I've seen.
Right.
I think as an agent, you have to be prepared for all. Just like when I worked in the front office for a team, you have to be prepared for all scenarios. If you don't do that, you're not doing your job. So I think it is in his best interest to be prepared. I think his agent will be prepared. I think the team will be prepared. But I don't think that decision will be made until after the season is over with, when you can sit down, look at the situation, evaluate the situation, and see the landscape of where the league is at. Because he knows what he has there, but now he has to see and make an educated decision on where the league is going to be and what that's going to see and what that's going to look like for him in the future.
But I'm not saying that you would do this or you would operate in this manner with the Wasserman Media Group, but is it feasible that an agent could tell a team in the middle of a playing season he's coming? I mean, is that possible?
Well, anything is possible. But how could you do that? You don't know where the draft is. You have injuries. You have so many things you don't have control over.
Right.
But anything is possible. Yes, that is possible. Do I see that being in this league now for 30-something years? No, because you have to let the chips fall. You have to let the chips kind of play themselves out. You have to let the game play itself out and really see how things are going to look once you have to get to that decision.
What do you think Draymond's decision has in front of him, knowing him, if you don't mind me
Well, I
crying
think
in a former client of yours.
I think with any player, especially a player of that level, is always going to be based on performance. Draymond is always a player that has performed. He's a big game player. The bigger the moment, the bigger he plays. And one thing I've always admired about him then, and I respect it now, is he plays in chaos. The more chaotic the situation is, the better he is. When all of that was swirling around with the referees after game one, the first thing I said was Draymond is going to have a great game in game two.
Why?
Because he plays in chaos. He functions better in chaos. That's some players, there's things going on and they get distracted. The more chaos going on around Draymond, the better he is. He can quiet his mind, he can quiet the game, and he can play in this. So more things you're talking about, he's going to be better and better because he just plays in big moments.
But isn't it? So let me take this way. You can be great in chaos if the way that you play the game in chaos lands in the hands of other guys named Curry and Durant and Clay. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
where if you go to a new situation and you're creating the chaos and it takes a while to build a championship team because you're going to a new situation, suddenly the chaos has an opportunity to totally consume you. And you might go to a coach that when they zoom in on his lips and he says, I'm so sick and tired of this person's what,
Right.
that you don't have that relationship yet and you don't have the winning surrounding it to spray that deodorant over the situation.
Yes.
So is he thinking, do you think, about like, this doesn't work for me anymore, even though I'm explaining what might actually work for him right now because he wants his own situation?
Well, if you're saying basically what you're saying is Draymond, is he a player that can go out and score 20 points consistently every night in this league? No, I don't think that's his game. I think Draymond, what he does is he brings chemistry to your team. He does all of the little things, and he does things to help you win basketball games. That's what he does. He's won at every level, high school, collegiate, pros. That's what he does. Draymond Green plays winning basketball. Now, if you force him to be a player where suddenly we're going to ask him to score 20, 25 points a night, I don't think that's his game. I think he will tell you that's not his game. So the combination of what he brings has to be valued playing winning basketball, because playing winning basketball is different than playing basketball when you're just trying to get to the playoffs or you're just trying to stay, above water. He is an excellent fit for a team that is ready and prepared to win games because of his knowledge, what he brings, and all of the intangibles that he brings to a group.
All right, a couple more minutes left with B.J. Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen Show. So did me take the Bulls down with Jordan going to play baseball, or the me never took the Bulls down when you played them? It stopped the three-peat.
Yeah,
What do you think?
know what? I think what took us down was the pressure, if you will, of just performing night in and night out, in particular Michael, because, there's a lot of pressure. And when you're carrying a team like he was carrying, that group, it just took a pressure, not only on the court, off the court. And I think there was the circumstances that were going on at that particular time in his life. He had some things going on, but I think physically it just takes a toll. And watching this Warriors team, going back to what's going on now, I think at some point playing, 25 or 30 games or whatever you're playing in the playoffs takes its toll, because you're playing in a condensed amount of time at a higher level. And I think physically, mentally, emotionally, it just takes a toll on you. And I think that's what happened to us. And Michael stepped away from the game, came back, and he was re-energized when he came back. I think you saw the joy in which he was playing the game, because sometimes you just keep doing it over and over again, you kind of get into a rut. And I think him stepping away gave him the energy or the resurgence that he needed to continue doing what he needed to do.
So when you look at this Warriors team right now, 10 wins away from a three-peat.
Yes.
And you see the coach, the coach,
Yes.
you know what the coach knows. You know
Right.
the coach's experiences that he brings, from the X's and O's to his own playing experience to keeping a three-peat team together, all of that. The minutes that these guys are logging and the impending free agency market that you know well as an agent. What do you see here? Do you see a team that's at the end of a run, or a team that has a great front office and ownership that's going to get together with a new arena opening up and figure out how to keep everyone happy and at the feeding trough and keep this thing going? What do you see right now, B.J. Armstrong?
Well, first, as I watch, Coach Kerr and Steve, and, calling him Coach Kerr just makes me laugh. But as I watch Coach Kerr, I see a coach who he's found his space to never trust happiness. Can't be happy in this league and continue to do what you're doing. You have to be even keeled. And I think that's what he's done probably better this year than any other year, is he doesn't trust the happiness. He's not trusting that he's up 2-0 and has control of this series. He knows how quickly things can turn. As you saw in the last series with the LA Clippers, things can turn in a hurry during the playoffs. I think in the foreseeable future with this team is they're going to have to address long-term is how they're going to build a team, because financially they have some things they have to work out. I mean, you got Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond's coming up, and then what is that going to leave for the other guys to build out a roster that can compete at a high level for the next 2, 3 to 4 years. So I think that is going to be an issue for this team moving forward. Is financially, is how are they going to build a team? And obviously you need great players. Obviously you need talent. Obviously you need tough players to do it. But again, financially, how do you spread that out through the court, through 10, 11, 12 players is going to be the big question.
So do you see this winding down? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's going to be very difficult for them. I think at some point, age and time is going to come into play here. And, do you want to have a 33, 34-year-old player, at that number and being able to build and saying, do we have a realistic chance to compete at that level, at that age? And those are questions they're going to have to answer. So I think it's a real conversation they have to have, and it'd be interesting to see what they do.
Well, we went on so long about all this. I'd love to keep you one more segment, if I can,
Yes.
to talk about the shooting fouls and the shooters
Yes,
and the
we
landing
can.
areas and all of that stuff. BJ Armstrong is going to stick around for one more segment here, the EVP and Managing Executive of the Wasserman Media Group and 3-time NBA champion in his own right. That's next here on The Rich Eisen Show. BJ Armstrong, 3-time NBA champion, back here for one more segment. That's the way game one ended of the series. It's now 2-0 Warriors. Let's put your shooting hat on.
Okay.
What's a foul anymore with a three-point shot? Landing areas and things like that. Do you think that these were good non-calls in game one? Do you think that the landing areas were being broached? Do you think that Harden's kicking out? What do you think right here, BJ?
Well, I think as the game has changed, the way the game is refereed has changed. Clearly in my era when I played, that was a foul. The way the game is played today, I think the psyche or the way you defend the three-point shot has changed. At one point, we closed out the three-point shooters. Now you're trying to run guys off the line. I think the referees now have to be consistent in the way they're going to call the game moving forward. The consistency in the whistle has to be there so that the players can adapt to how the game is going to be played. But clearly, in the way that I think, and I think most people, when they see that, they see contact, and that should be a foul, because the thing that we don't want as players and as coaches and people who watch the game, you don't want to see players get injured. And a player is very vulnerable when they rise up to shoot, and then you come down on someone's foot. I mean, I remember the Kawhi Leonard situation here a couple years, about 2 or 3 years ago, where that was a game changer for the San Antonio Spurs. And you don't want to see, you want the health of the players front and center, and that is a dangerous play for any player. I think any shooter or any player who plays the game will tell you, I'm most vulnerable when I rise up and shoot like that.
But I mean, just for an official to see Harden either shove off and then create the space that now a defender needs to broach and him land in it because he's kicking his feet out, or again, it's a foul. I mean, it puts a lot on the officials right now,
it
BJ.
does.
So how does a league basically say this is what it is? Everybody has to understand.
Well, I think this is what we're going to have to figure out. I remember there was a player, Reggie Miller, who used to kick his feet out. I mean, not to call names out.
No, it's okay, BJ. But Reggie, we all know.
Yeah, Reggie, that was. So it made the defensive player nervous to close out on him because he would kick his feet out and then the referee would see contact. But I think the referees caught up to that. Now I think the way the game is played now, when you're seeing guys shoot 50, 60 times from the three-point line, the game has to be, called different. I think they are adjusting. When I say the referees are adjusting. But clearly you want to have the health of especially the offensive player, because we know what can happen if that player comes down on someone's foot.
Now we're going to have you back on before the end of the playoffs. That's for sure. Okay. And again, you've got your Pure Hoops Media podcast.
Yes,
Okay,
that is it. Yes.
People can go find that right now, where all podcasts are found with BJ Armstrong. That said, as we're sitting here right now, team with the best chance to beat the Warriors, you have the Field, or the Warriors.
I think that the best team is the Warriors, as clearly we all say that.
Will the Warriors beat themselves, or it's the Field?
I think the best roster, though, is the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics 1 through 12, they are as good as any team. And I think this team is built. And they have a player who can play the full 48 minutes and create a shot on his own in Kyrie Irving. I think that team there is going to be a team to be reckoned with, because they are a great team. And as you go further in the playoffs, this team has the depth to play and win 16 games. And I really like them.
So in the 30 seconds we have left, you full circle. You said the player to stop is Draymond. You said in the commercial break you thought the Clippers with Jerry West, who knows Draymond.
Yes,
they're the team that did it best. So who on the Celtics is that? Horford? Is he the guy that they put on him?
I think they can put Horford. I think they can put Marcus Morris on him. I think they have a number of players that can play at the speed of a player like a Draymond. The speed, I think, can counter whatever they're doing. And when I was watching the Clippers series, the Clippers, to me, with Jerry West and Doc Rivers, I thought they had a great game plan.
Good to see you, BJ.
Rich,
Great to see you.
pleasure.
BJ's going to come back on. David Boreanaz, Sean Payton in your calls, hour 2.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live, or download the Rich Eisen Show app.